Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Dawn Bébe, who's here to share with us Crowdfunder. So what happens when you combine the power of storytelling with a platform that funds change? Crowdfunder CEO Dawn Bébe joins us to discuss how bold ideas are becoming real-world solutions and how the future of funding is being reimagined through access, equality, and innovation. Dawn has been part of the senior team driving it towards becoming the #1 UK crowdfunding platform, raising more than $500 million for projects across the UK, and has helped it to win global awards for the delivery of its mission to tackle society's challenges by making grassroots ideas happen. And the exciting thing is, it's now available in the US. So welcome to the show, Dawn Bébe.
Hi, Marianne. How are you? I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about Crowdfunder. I have to understand, what is this defining moment in the story that shaped your path leading to Crowdfunder?
Well, I think the story that led to us launching Crowdfunder in the US is the most incredible story, and it's actually true. It's not a PR puff or anything. And I think probably if I tell you the story, it might kind of explain why we're really excited about coming to America and helping communities in America turn their ideas into reality. So if I just take a moment to explain the spark behind Crowdfunder US, we had always noticed Crowdfunder launched 12 years ago in the UK, and we'd always noticed there seemed to be a lot of people in America pledging money to projects in the UK, which we thought was a little bit unusual, but we hadn't really focused on it. And then a few months ago, there was a project that launched a sleepy little pub on the south coast of England called the Elm Tree Inn. And they were crowdfunding to save the pub because the local villagers didn't want to lose the pub. And so they started to do a crowdfund. And luckily, one of the members of the village, their daughter was a bit of a Gen Z kind of girl. And she said, look, guys, you're doing it all wrong. Let me create your video to promote your crowdfund. So she did this hilarious TikTok style video. And it was about Friends of the Elm Tree from the point of view of Gen Z. So they used a lot of words like slay and, other words that Gen Z use. Anyway, this TikTok video went viral and it crossed the Atlantic, got over to the States, and people in the US just loved it. And they started pledging money onto the crowdfund for Friends of the Elm Tree Pub. And before we knew it, they pledged over £50,000. And actually, we discovered in the end, it turned out that the pub was more or less saved by people in America. And that's people in America who've never been to the Elm Tree Pub, who are very unlikely to go there. But they just thought it was such a lovely idea, and they could see that the community really wanted to save the pub, that they wanted to contribute. And we just thought this was completely astonishing. We were like, what? People in America? They want to save this little village pub in this sleepy Dorset village. That is very interesting. So we started thinking about America, and we started thinking, well, how would it be if we launched there? Maybe Americans, people in the States, want to come together as communities to get behind things that they care about and ideas that they want to see happen in America. And when we started to look at the sort of what's out there in the US, we realized that really, actually, there weren't many places for communities to come together and support ideas and things that were happening in their community. And we felt that actually maybe it was a good time for us to cross the water and come and launch Crowdfunder USA.
Well, what a remarkable story. Thank you so much for sharing that. For our folks that are new to crowdfunding, can you share a little bit about what Crowdfunder is?
Yeah, definitely. So Crowdfunder is an online platform, and it's where people come together to make ideas happen. So we're quite a mission-based, a purpose led organization. And we kind of believe that that we're all about helping to tackle society's challenges. And we believe that some of the best ideas to tackle society's challenges don't live in big blocks of concrete called the government or big buildings called the White House. Some of the best ideas of how to tackle society's challenges live in the hearts and minds of people on the ground in the community who know how to solve some of these challenges, but just need a little bit of funding and support to make it happen. And that's where we come in. Our platform helps to bring the crowd together to get behind great ideas. So in essence, what you have to do, if you've got an idea and you want some funding and support, you put your idea onto Crowdfunder, you launch your campaign, you tell your community, your friends, your family, your network all about it, and you ask for money to support the idea. And then the louder you shout, the more money you raise, and that money then comes into you through the platform, and you can use it to make your idea happen or to support your idea. So it's, in essence, it's really simple, and in a way, it's been happening since history began. A lot of things through history have been crowdfunded, but we've just developed an online platform to make the whole process a lot easier.
What a great way to just really be involved in our communities and helping the projects that we really care about, like the pub. So, and I want to kind of dive into your background a little bit. So, what inspired you to move from media and publishing into the world of crowdfunding?
Yeah, so my background, way back in the day, I was a journalist, and I actually started out in women's magazines. And the reason that I got into women's magazines was because I believed that women's magazines were a place where women could come together to talk as a community about things that were important to them. And women's magazines were all about ideas and new ideas and making things happen. And I believe that women's magazines could be instrumental in lifting horizons, giving women the right information, and sort of making their worlds, if you like, a bit of a better place. And I know there's sort of arguments that why women's magazines are terrible and so on, but I actually believed they were a force for good. And so I was quite inspired by that. And then as the years went by, digital came along, and I could see that actually the next big move in media was going to be digital. And I moved across to digital media and helped launch a series of women's websites and so on. And then when we sort of started looking, I was working with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and we started looking again across the landscape about what was happening next. And we'd seen this thing in America start called crowdfunding, and we'd seen this platform called Kickstarter, and we thought, wow, that's interesting. I wonder what crowdfunding would look like in Britain. So Kickstarter was all about Pebble watches and movies and products and so on. And we started to think, well, if we did crowdfunding in the UK, what flavour would that be? How would it be? And quite interestingly, as soon as we started to trial it, we realised that actually in the UK, what people got excited about was getting behind a great idea that was important for their community. So it was all about the community coming together to make ideas happen in their community that they wanted to see happen. So it took on a different flavor from the US, but we thought it was really powerful. And the more we showed this idea, this prototype to people, the more people would say, that's amazing, I love it. The answer is yes. Now, what do you want to support you? How can we help you? And it just really snowballed from there. It was amazing. And with my media and communication background, I could just see that this was really, really powerful. And I've always just loved new ideas and making things happen. So for me, it was the perfect opportunity for me. And it's been absolutely an amazing experience to be involved with.
Well, what a remarkable journey. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, what type of projects do people on Crowdfunder raise money for?
Yeah, so on Crowdfunder, we have a whole broad range of different types of projects, everything from businesses through to social enterprises, not-for-profits, individuals. So we have a whole spectrum, if you like, of different types of people and organizations that want to raise money. But the key thing that makes their project successful is if there's a community of interest around them, of people who just think that is a great idea, and I want to make that happen. And often in Crowdfunder, we see that people just love the idea, but they don't necessarily want to have something back in return. So on Kickstarter, you often see that, say for taking the example of the Pebble watch, what people are actually doing is they're paying for a Pebble watch in advance. So they do the crowdfund and they get, a product back in return. But often on Crowdfunder, because it's community based, people are saying things like, oh, I just love that idea of a dementia cafe in my town, in my village. And actually, I just want to help you make that happen. And I don't need anything back. Here, just have the money. So we often see that the majority of people who give money are just purely donating and they don't necessarily need anything back. And it's just really because they'd rather see that thing happen in their community that they believe is necessary, rather than have the money sitting in the bank, paying for their next Starbucks coffee or whatever. They'd rather contribute to something that's going to make a difference in their community. I think that's the kind of difference that we see anyway.
It sounds like the projects really pull at people's hearts where they emotionally connect and really want to be a part of making something great.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something actually. Once somebody has supported a project, you kind of become part of that project's journey. You sort of go on the journey with the project and you feel emotionally involved with the project, and you become a great supporter, an ambassador, an advocate. And also that obviously that's really helpful for the project to have a whole team of ambassadors and people who will fight for you and offer additional resources. And often when a project comes to Crowdfunder, they come because they need the money. But when after they've done it, they realize it's about so much more than the money. It offers them the opportunity to validate their idea, to get feedback. Often people who support the idea will say, hey, your idea is really great. Good. Do you need some volunteers? I'd be happy to help you at the food bank. Or perhaps they'll say, hey, I didn't know you needed a minibus. Here, I have a minibus, have the minibus. And it often leads to other funding opportunities because people will say, oh, I didn't realize you needed money. Here, I've got a grant. I know about this grant. You can have this grant. Or, oh, I've got some money sitting here and I'd rather you had it than me. So we see all this kind of magic happens by simply through the act of crowdfunding and kind of putting it out there that this is a great idea that needs your support. So it's a really kind of magical, quite dynamic thing. It really gives people confidence around the ideas and the projects that they're doing, and that has a real value in itself.
Now, do you have another story you can share with us? I'm sure you probably have many.
So I think probably our biggest project that we did was just a quite astonishing one. We call it the stables. And it was a little riding stables in southwest London. And the way that the stables worked, it was run by a lady called Natalie, who's a force of nature. She's an incredible woman. And she was told that her riding stables was going to close and the landlord wanted to sell the property and so on. And he wanted £1 million for it, and he wanted that money within 2 weeks. And the riding stables wasn't just a riding stables, it was actually a riding stables for the disabled, disadvantaged and vulnerable people in the community. So the idea was that by spending time with the horses, it was a form of therapy for children in particular, but also other disabled people and so on. So it had a massive community benefit. It was very, very popular. So Natalie, obviously £1 million in a couple of weeks, that is tough. But her team rallied around Natalie and they said to her, Natalie, I think you could do it. Why don't we crowdfund the stables? So she approached us and said, listen, I've got this almost impossible challenge. I really need £1 million as fast as possible. And so we got behind her. The great thing about Crowdfunder is you're not just dealing with an anonymous platform. There's a team of people behind the platform, and we really do care about projects. We want to help them as much as possible. So we all pulled together and we got behind Natalie's crowdfund. So Natalie, she was like a pocket rocket. She was an Exocet missile aimed at crowdfunding. And she started shouting about the crisis that the stables was in and how she needed money. And she very quickly got onto national radio, like yourself. She ended up on one of our morning TV sofas, GMTV, talking about the stables. And it just caught the public imagination. And it just started to fly. And very soon the project had raised 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, and Natalie could barely believe it. It was amazing. She also managed to reach out to various celebrities who were living locally, and they loved it, and they started talking about it on their social channels. And one of our big British comedians, he got behind it and started talking about it for her. And the money just kept coming in. And very soon she'd raised over £1 million. And it was absolutely astonishing. I think she did it in 3 weeks. And she managed to raise enough money to buy the stables and keep it going. And it was just the most extraordinary story. Interestingly, she's actually now written a book about it. It was such an epic story. And she's in discussions with TV producers about producing a movie about her story. So it's definitely one of our most exciting and successful projects. And it was just lovely, showing how the power of one individual and the crowd can just make amazing things happen.
What a remarkable story. Gosh, it must make you feel so good to be one of the CEOs of a company who moves such positivity forward and helps people, and I'm sure in ways that you may have never even imagined.
Definitely. We're all about funding positivity. That's basically in our DNA. That's what we do. But, anyone who watches the news must know there's so many bad things happening. There's so many challenges. There's so many, things to worry about and be concerned about. But also there's so many good people doing so many good things. And what Crowdfunder does is it brings those people together and gives them an opportunity to talk about what they're trying to do and get people behind it and get the support of not just people in their local community. I mean, quite often, as with the Friends of the Elm Tree Pub, people, once the word gets out, people across the world will start to care about what they're doing. So you get people pledging from, across the country, from other countries and so on. And it's just incredibly exciting and very interesting, if you like, to see good people getting the chance to show what they can do, to show what their ideas are and what their solutions are, and make really good stuff happen. And for everyone who works at Crowdfunder, that's why we're there. That's what we want to do. We want to make good stuff happen and help people make those things happen. So yeah, it's a really brilliant place to work. It's an inspiration station. You wake up every morning and you see these amazing ideas and you're thinking, that is fantastic. That's so good. So yeah, it's a real antidote to listening to the news sometimes at night and thinking, oh my God, what's happening to the world?
Oh my gosh, I think people just want to scroll through the different projects, the different campaigns that are happening to see how they can help and assist. Where would
Yeah.
they go to look at all the different campaigns that are taking place right now?
Yeah, so if they go to crowdfunder.com, we've just added some of the projects that we think are good ones, and people can have a look at them, see whether they're the kinds of things they either want to support or might inspire them to perhaps launch their own crowdfunding project. We've also got a team of coaches who are working for Crowdfunder US. So if someone is thinking about launching a project and they've got a really good idea, but they feel they need a bit of assistance, they can email into us, support@crowdfunder.com, and we'll talk to them about their project and get them sorted, work through a strategy with them and give them all the help they need to make it successful. So yeah, there's a lot of help there. But yeah, if you look through crowdfunder.com, you can see some examples of the kind of stuff people are doing.
Well, having that support is such a big deal. I've known folks that have done events and really had challenges in just navigating, figuring things out, and trying to get the best placement for their campaign. So having that helping hand is such a big deal.
Yeah. There's a lot of support on the platform. So we've got guides on the platform. We've got an email coach. So once you've signed up to the platform, it will start telling you what you need to do next and so on. So there's lots of support. But I think in the US, we felt that we needed to offer something additional. So people had that something to give them a bit of confidence and also help them to develop their strategy. Think about how to explain their project, how to communicate effectively with their network, and how to position things. And we felt that we needed to offer something extra. So the only downside is that you will be listening to an English accent from your coach, not an American accent. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, there are UK-based experts, and they're there to help American projects be successful.
I think we really prefer the English accent with that, the British accent. So most of us would really appreciate hearing that. We're feeling like we're really getting some super special care when that happens. And my goodness, the work that you do. So when someone's ready to start their own crowdfunder project, where do they go to begin? I know we've kind of talked about a few things here.
Yeah, so the process is relatively simple. So you would register on the site, and then you'll be taken through a process. But in essence, what we ask you to do is create a project page. It's all very simple. You just kind of fill stuff in. Tell us how much money you need, what you want to do with the money. Explain what your project's about, what you're trying to do, what's the impact you're trying to have, and what's the change you're trying to affect in the world. So just get that written down. We also we create links for social media and so on, so you can share it. So once you've put all that in, we also encourage you to put in a little video about your project. Now, this doesn't need to be a Steven Spielberg epic. It can just be a little iPhone video that you record to camera, or if you do have friends who are good at videography, you can ask them to help you. So videos tend to work better. Statistically speaking, projects that have a video tend to be more successful because the world loves a good video. So, but you don't have to have that. And then you go live and you launch. And then really it's all about shouting from the rooftops about your idea and why it's important, and urgently asking people to support you. So we help you take you through that strategy. So in general terms, it's like layers of an onion ring. You start with your friends and family, get them to support you. And the reason this is important to get your friends and family to support you first is because if you put your idea up there and not even your mum will give you $5 for it, that's kind of telling you something. It's maybe saying, well, maybe it's not such a good idea. But if you put your idea up there, your mum puts in $5, your dad puts in $10, suddenly your rich uncle puts in $1,000, and then suddenly somebody you've never met puts in $5,000. Well, that's telling you you're onto something. You've got a great idea and people want to support it. And so what we encourage people to do is create a kind of little network map, a visualization of all the people and the different networks they know, and then create a little plan to reach out to all of them using all sorts of different channels. So it can be social media, it can be literally in person, old-fashioned, ask them directly. It can be through PR, so going out to local media like yourself, newspapers. Using channels like LinkedIn can be really effective. Instagram's a great way of talking to people, and all sorts of different ways of communicating to people and explaining to people what you're trying to do, how much money you need, and why they should support you. And amazingly enough, if you should tell your story well enough, people will get behind you and they will support you. And we have spoken now to a number of Americans, people based in Georgia, Idaho, California, Venice Beach, for example. And they've actually all said to me that one of their frustrations is they feel like they've got a really good idea, but their local community doesn't know anything about it, and they're really struggling to kind of get support for their idea. So that's why I kind of think it may well work really nicely in the US, because it really showcases people trying to do good stuff in the community and really gets that local community behind it.
Well, I really like the example of the stables because, I mean, that woman did everything and then some.
She
And
really did.
what a force of nature being able to push her passion forward in the way that she did.
Yeah, she did. She actually told me that she didn't sleep for 3 weeks because every hour of the day she was emailing people, or she was ringing people, or she was doing social media. She was just doing everything in her power to make this £1 million happen. I don't think you necessarily need to go that crazy, but that's the way she did it. She just said, I decided I was going to devote my next 3 weeks of my life to making this happen. I was going to do everything in my power. But, she did it. She pulled it off. And she's actually she's a lovely person. She's also agreed to mentor other projects, other people who want to do similar things. And she's always available to help them out as well. So she's kind of, paying it forward, if you like, as well. So it's just fantastic.
Oh my gosh, what a fabulous story that keeps unfolding there. It has me
Mm.
kind of thinking, I mean, you must have so much kind of planned for the future of Crowdfunder. Can you share any kind of little tips that you have coming up? I know launching in America was such a big deal.
Yeah, so launching in America was a really big deal. In a way, it was it seemed like a distant dream, something that we could probably never do. Seemed like too far off, but actually, because obviously America, amazing country. We've got such brilliant relationships with people in America, but it's a really, really big country. However, having seen the data and having seen that Americans were already interested in supporting projects like the ones on Crowdfunder, that gave us that confidence to, be brave and kind of go for it. And we've got an American lead for Crowdfunder US on the ground in California, a lady called Melinda, and she has done some great work with us. Some strategic work, just thinking through how people in the US would view Crowdfunder, what would make it attractive for them, and also just helping us talk to people in the US about, their plans and what they want to do. So that's been really helpful. And I have to say, everyone I've met in the US has been amazing. Such lovely people with such great ideas, so smart. It's just been an absolute joy. And obviously, there's a time difference thing going on. So every day after I finish my day job, the coast opens and I sit down, and at 5 o'clock, I talk to Los Angeles and people in Los Angeles mainly. They're not exclusively. And I just meet such great people with such amazing ideas. And it's a total pleasure. And then I think you asked me about future plans. We've got some ideas around upgrades for the US platform. So in particular, we've been asked about match funding. So this is where if a project raises some money from the crowd, somebody will come in and match that money with money from them. So from their own source, whether that's a grant or it's a corporate or a brand that wants to sort of be part of the journey. So we've been asked about that, and I think we're looking at that as our next upgrade. So if there's a project listening, and you've got a match funder, somebody who might match funds that you raise, we can make that happen. And that acts as a great incentive for the crowd, because if the crowd know that for every dollar they put in, somebody's going to match it and double it, so they get $2, the project gets $2. Obviously, that's really cool. It's really exciting. So that's something that we're bringing in. It's not there yet, but we can do it. So if anybody is interested in doing that with us, happy to talk to you, and we'll make that happen. And then beyond that, we're also looking at if things go well in America, we're also looking at other territories who might be interested. And we've already had a few people, a few different countries starting to talk to us and say, I think I've noticed what you're doing in the US. That looks really interesting. We'd be interested in talking to you. So let's see what happens. Not a definite, but very interested to see if it could happen.
Well, Dawn, can you share your website with us one more time?
Yeah, so it's www.crowdfunder.com. So very easy, crowdfunder.com.
Well, Dawn, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Pleasure. It was really lovely speaking to you, and I hope you found it interesting.
Well, I most definitely did. And I'm actually browsing Crowdfunder right now and checking out the campaigns that are raising money. And there's some good ones here, so make sure to join in. And if you have a project that needs funding, make sure to visit crowdfunder.com, sign up there, and get in touch with them. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.